Good afternoon and welcome to the 2014 Andover Athletics Hall of Honor induction ceremony. My name is Mike Moonves, and along with Eleanor Tidings-Golub, who apologizes for not being here today, and members of the Athletics Committee, thank you all for coming today. I'd like to welcome the head of school, John Palfrey. He will be offering closing remarks. What a wonderful group of inductees we have here on stage. We appreciate their family members who are here, some of whom have traveled a long way, and also friends and classmates gathering for this special occasion. They're wonderful role models for our students, and this wonderful initiative, the Athletics Hall of Honor, is celebrating its 7th anniversary. If I could please ask former inductees to the Hall of Honor, please stand. We want to recognize and thank Dick Phelps, class of '46, and Jim Meade, class of '47, for their vision. Together, they conceived of this several years ago and helped us bring it to life. In 2012, we installed a plaque in their honor that reads, "Phillips Academy and the Alumni Council offer profound thanks to Richard J. Phelps, 46, and James M. Meade, 47, for inspiring and championing the Andover Athletics Hall of Honor." Dick, would you please stand and be recognized? Since it launched, we have inducted alumni, trainers, coaches, and teams that have spanned 123 years of classes from Phillips and Abbott academies. These athletes have represented sports across the spectrum, from the gridiron to the track, to the lacrosse field, the soccer pitch, the parquet floor, and the wrestling mat. Today, we induct 9 individuals into the Athletics Hall of Honor. The mission of the initiative is to recognize and honor alumni, teams, and coaches from Phillips and Abbott academies who displayed exceptional athletic ability on the field and who continue to lead a life that embodies the values of the academies. Members of the Athletics Committee and others will join me and will take turns in presenting the awards today.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce Douglas W. Brown. As an Andover student, Doug Brown played varsity hockey, varsity baseball, and JV football. During his senior year, he was selected as captain for all 3 sports. After graduating from the University of Vermont College of Medicine in 1972, Dr. Brown completed residency programs in the fields of orthopedics and sports medicine. He served as an orthopedic surgeon in the Navy and as a team physician at the U.S. Naval Academy before returning to his native Maine, where he had completed his undergraduate studies at Bowdoin College. He began a 31-year partnership as the team physician for Portland High School and as an orthopedic consultant to Bowdoin. In 1986, he began a long association with U.S. Soccer, and I'm sure it pains him to sit here as the World Cup is going on. Serving as the team physician for the national team for the U16, U20, U23, men's Olympic, and men's national teams, including during the 1990 World Cup. In 1993, he became head team physician for the women's national team, including during the 1995 and 1999 World Cup competitions where they won bronze and gold respectively. An active member of the American Orthopedic Society for Sports Medicine since 1981, Brown served on its board of directors from 1989 to 2001, holding the title of president from 1998 to 1999. He's published articles and presented papers internationally on post-operation pain management and ACL reconstruction. Currently, he is chair of AOSSM's Medical Publishing Group, publishers of the American Journal of Sports Medicine, Sports Health, and the Open Access Orthopedic Journal of Sports Medicine. Brown's professional awards include the Eastern Athletic Trainers Association's David G. Moyer Award and induction into the Maine Sports Hall of Fame. Please join me in recognizing Douglas W. Brown.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here as an understatement, and I feel so fortunate to be here because not just to be with these really worthy and outstanding alumni, but to be recognized by Andover in this way. And also, this happens to be my 50th reunion, so to be here with all of my classmates is really special. Thank you. So, you know, a month or so ago, Mike Moonves called me to tell me about this award, and I must tell you that Mike was truly one of my athletic heroes here at Andover. And when I arrived as a skinny 145-pound lower mid, Mike was a senior. He was a three-sport varsity athlete, captain of basketball, and if there was anybody that was a big jock on campus, it was Mike. And frankly, I was intimidated to approach him. But in the spring, we played baseball together, and I think I might have gained 5 pounds by then, up to 150. And my shyness disappeared, but never did my admiration for Mike disappear. So it's always fascinating to me, I think, to recognize that there's still powerful remnants of the 16-year-old, or choose whatever age you want, that reside inside our heads somewhere. So even 50 years later, after I hung up the call, I turned to my friend Nancy and I said, "Oh my God, do you know who I just spoke to on the phone? That was Mike Moonves." Then I had to explain all about who Mike was. So thank you, Mike, for being the one to make the phone call. You were the perfect person for that. Thanks. Several years ago, my dear friend and the current hockey coach at Bowdoin was sitting in my office, and we were discussing the fact that he might need surgery on his knee. And he said, "Dougie, listen, I've seen your hockey statistics at Bowdoin, 14 goals in 3 years. I sure hope you have better hands as a surgeon than you did as a hockey player." Well, I eventually did operate on his knee, and since it appears to be pain-free still 15 years later, I think he was right. Probably I did have better hands as a surgeon than as a hockey player. So at the beginning of my career as an orthopedic surgeon, sports medicine was just becoming a legitimate subspecialty, and I have been so fortunate that for 35 years, I've had sort of a permanent sideline pass, a permanent locker room pass, a permanent team bus pass for so many priceless sports medicine experiences, literally all around the world. From remote soccer fields in Honduras, to out-of-the-way venues in Australia and Brazil, to World Cup matches at the Olympic Stadium in Rome against Italy, and of course the Rose Bowl in Pasadena where US beat China in double overtime. And also inner city schools in Atlanta, and then of course all over the state of Maine. So I want to most sincerely thank Andover for this honor, which I believe as much recognizes the athletic supporter in me than it does the accomplished athlete, but I'm grateful nonetheless. And I also want to say that what has influenced me most about my sports experiences as a player and as a physician on the sidelines are the timeless lessons about dedication, discipline, teamwork, and mental attitude. And I can't tell you, I really can't remember games won or games lost or scores, although I can remember a few embarrassing moments, like the night we were playing a night game against one of the college freshman teams here in hockey, and the whole school was assembled around the rink, and I had a piece of tape caught on my foot, and I was the captain. I was supposed to lead everybody out, but my first stride, the tape took hold. I fell. A couple of guys fell over me, and there was this collective, oh, you know. But I've never forgotten the invaluable lessons that coaches and teachers have given me. I believe in you. I have confidence in you, and I'm proud of you. And those things especially define my experiences here at Andover, not just in athletics, but everywhere around this campus. And what I learned here has been immeasurably valuable to me all my life. To be recognized today on this occasion in the company of these outstanding people and all of the previous recipients and my classmates, for being an Andover graduate who, quote, embodied the traditions and aspirations of the Academy, means more to me than I can express, and I am deeply grateful. Thank you very much.
I am Jim Bamford, Gil's brother. And I'm not going to read this. My eyes aren't that good. My comments is the importance of siblings to add to all the others that contribute to good athletes and good students. And Gil was the fourth of 9 children. The first 3 were girls. My mother knew she wanted a large family and thought, I better figure out how to get some help. So when Gil arrived, the 3 oldest were girls. The oldest was 5. And my mother said, she's going to potty train him. So, and she did. So among the first words, phrases that he heard were, you can do it, good job. So following that, the next 5 came along, and it was girls and boys. But the boys, with one interruption of my sister Jackie breaking up the run, it was 4 boys in 5 years, and it ended up being 9 children in 11 years. So it was a pretty close call there. But with 3 brothers, 3 younger brothers, and a mother who demands a little help, he quickly learned how to coach and to discipline and to generally harass his 3 younger brothers. So all of that makes for a pretty good start in life for your academics and your athletics. And these are the people, I've already mentioned my parents, but these are the people who we were fortunate to have. Some people are only children, only child, and the teammates, that's what makes it. So I introduce my brother Gil.
Because I anticipated that Jimmy would let out a lot of secrets about our large family, I'm going to kind of confine my remarks to just a quick summary of what Andover has meant to my family. And it is something that I know my mother and father, bless them, would have would take great pride. I'd like to thank first the selection committee for this honor, and Jenny Savino for all the hard work that she's put in bringing it all about. Earlier this week, Jenny emailed me saying at the last minute there were some details mentioning that the first 2 rows would be reserved for family. I quickly emailed her back saying, hey, Jenny, I'm going to need the whole first row, I think. Jenny, who is handling a lot of other duties right now, her response was, no problem, just get them there early. So a lot of us were here early. In fact, many of us were here last night, and many of us were here last weekend for another happy event, which I'll speak to briefly. But seated here, either in front or somewhere else, is a family that I'm very proud of. It begins with my wife, Gail. I have sister Marion, who really is one of the reasons I found out about Andover. I think my mother had in mind either a Catholic high school, who was interested in me, or Brooks School, where there was a tradition in North Andover, where we lived at the time, that the top student athlete would go there for 4 years. The idea of Andover really was introduced when my sister Marion and Bill Duffy, class of 1951 here at Andover, were talking about me and where I was going to go to school, and Bill suggested, well, why not Andover? And quite frankly, I think at that time my mom and dad probably would have referred to it as Phillips, and it was 100 miles away as far as they would have thought. However, I got a little bit of help from everybody. I was at a public school at the time that did not even have algebra in the 8th grade. So fortunately, I had a family that were pretty good in their math, and they helped me pass the entrance exams. Also here are my sisters Roberta and Jacqueline, brother David, Jim, who just introduced me, told too many stories. He was class of '62. My son Mark, class of '81. David, my son, my daughter Kristen. They've all brought their children, my grandchildren. 6 grandchildren are here, including Zachary Bamford, who graduated with the class of 2014 last weekend and is going on to the University of Chicago, which is a new tradition for the Bamford family. We send him a lot of places, but just another great university that I know he'll do well at. I have 3 nephews. Charlie Welch, class of 1984, Peter Welch, class of 1988, Michael Sullivan, class of '94. They're all here. Another nephew, Ben Moran, class of 1988, now deceased, and in whose memory the Moran family has endowed a scholarship fund for deserving students from Rhode Island or wherever else, preference Rhode Island. And lastly, a grandnephew, Kyle Welch, who will enter Andover this fall as a 9th grader. It's obvious, I think, to many people that Andover has been a very important and good part for the family. That's not only the Bamford family, but the Welch family, the Moran family, and the Sullivan family. And for that, I am very grateful. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Bamford, and this Father's Day weekend I have the honor not only of witnessing my father's induction into Andover's Athletic Hall of Fame, but also of introducing Marilyn and Jimmy Eastham. Marilyn and Jimmy. They are here today to accept, speak for, and honor Dana Eastham, a posthumous Hall of Honor inductee. Dana Eastham graduated from Andover in 1949, and like my father, grew up here in the town of Andover on Bartlett Street. In fact, some of you probably parked your cars in front of his house because he's about 200 yards away. Dana was a 4-year starter on the wrestling team at Andover, posting a 35-1 record over that period. He captained the team and went undefeated his senior year. He went on to wrestle successfully at Brown University, where he is a member of the Brown Athletic Hall of Fame and was chosen as one of the school's 100 greatest athletes of the century. He wrestled in the Army as well, but his most colorful post-Andover athletic experience may actually involve his Olympic wrestling trial, where in the U.S. Championship match, he lost an overtime split judges decision and was selected as the first alternate to the 1956 U.S. Olympic team. Marilyn told me that story this week. Dana's life after Andover and Brown was dedicated to his family, to his business interests, and to public service in the state of Georgia, where he served as mayor and councilman for the city of Marietta for a total of 16 years. Dana was a president of Eastham Data Processing and an executive at Lockheed Martin for 20 years. He's the father of 5 and the grandfather of 12 children. The Georgia State Legislature passed a 2006 resolution at the time of his passing to recognize his contributions to the public and private sector, also highlighting his numerous athletic accomplishments. At this time, I would like to turn the podium over to Marilyn Eastham, Dana's wife of over 50 years. Marilyn?
Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it, and congratulations to your dad, to Gil, and to all the inductees. This is a special occasion, and I wish that Dana were here to accept this award. I just want to thank all of his friends. We had a great time, and Carl Schaefer was wonderful in promoting this, and I appreciate it. He couldn't be here, but and so many of the friends, Ned Rowland, and just lots of them, and the fraternity, was it GSC fraternity when you had them a long time ago, and the wrestling friends too. I appreciate his family. Nancy and Jack and Bill all went here, and particularly his mom and dad for having the foresight to send their children to this wonderful school. Jimmy is here. Jimmy, stand if you will. Our son is here with us representing the family. And I also want to thank the school, President John. I appreciate it. It's a wonderful school. I taught at Westminster for 30 years in Atlanta, and Dana and I had a great time comparing notes. But this is a great school. The excellent teachers and all the perquisites around it too. I remember he was talking about I don't know whether you remember the Saturday night when they go to the movies here, and the bird sanctuary and Rabbit Pond. In fact, I ice skated on Rabbit Pond the first time I'd ever ice skated with it. But all of the things about the school that you're aware of too. And actually, I think the friends and family and the school gave Dana the core values that he had. I think Dana was probably the very best person that I've ever known. He was a wonderful husband for 53 years. He was the father of 5 children and the grandfather of 12 children and the great-grandfather of 11 children. So we've had a wonderful time together. And he loved his community. He loved being mayor of Marietta, and he loved the church. They had 40 years perfect attendance at Rotary and just enjoyed all of it. By the way, will all you fathers stand up now? Let's give you a round of applause. Father's Day is tomorrow. All the dads. Thank you. We owe you a lot. But you know, I said at the beginning that I wish Dana were here, and I think he is here in a way. You know, all of those that have gone before us, I think of it as being like the cheering section in the balcony, that they're here wishing us well with the, in Hebrews 12, 1 and 2, it says, though I'm surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us throw off all that hinders us and run the race before us. And that's what Dana did. So today, Dick and John and all of you inductees and all of the friends and family, on behalf of Dana, I accept this award and thank you for it.
Hi, my name is Karen Kennedy, and I work in the athletic office, and I actually had the privilege of coaching Jean, and I just have to take a look because she told me the pictures were just awesome. So as I said, it is a privilege to introduce Jean Ficocello. Jean was an honor student, cum laude, awarded the Yale Bowl at commencement, an award given to the member of the senior class who has attained the highest proficiency in scholarship and athletics. Even as a young student, she had a vision for her future and the drive to realize those dreams. She knew she wanted to go to Harvard. She loved animals, horses, dogs, and cats, and knew she wanted to study biology and pre-med and to become a veterinarian. And if you look at your program today, you'll see that she accomplished all of those things. As this is the Athletic Hall of Honor, let's look to the sports. Jean came to Andover from nearby Wilmington. She played soccer from a very young age. I think thanks to her dad was a big influence on that. And as a 9th grader, she joined us on the JV team. As a 10th grader, she would not be denied that varsity spot. And as I said, I was the coach. The year before, we had graduated 11 seniors. When Jean joined the team, it really should have been a rebuilding year, bringing in new young players, providing experiences both in sports and life to lead to a greater success down the road. We should have been a team that made many mistakes, learning from those mistakes in order to solve many problems in seasons to come. That was not to be. The 10th grade Jean, with her speed and tenacity, won the sweeper spot. Now that's the spot in the very back of the defense, right in the middle. She proved that she could handle anything that came her way. She centered a defense that gave up only 8 goals, and they went on to win the New England Championship. Jean picked up basketball in her 8th grade year and lacrosse when she came here to campus. She's the type of athlete we wish to see today, a 3-sport athlete that works her way through the ranks in our programs. She played JV2 as a 9th grader, JV1 as a 10th grader, and varsity her final 2 years. Her high spirit, energetic personality, and willingness to do whatever was needed earned her many acknowledgments. In her senior year, she won the Drake Soccer Award, was elected captain in basketball, was chosen by the New England Lacrosse Association for their selective team, and was selected as one of the Philippian Athletes of the Year. At Harvard, she continued in lacrosse, starting varsity all 4 years, was voted again captain her senior year, and earned a spot on the women's all-time first-team All-Ivy League team. After Harvard, she continued her studies at UPenn and then at Colorado State. She's returned to the Boston area to practice at the VCA South Shore Animal Hospital. It's my pleasure to introduce Jean Ficocello.
Thank you so much. I left my prepared remarks at home, so I will wing it a little bit. Congratulations to all my fellow inductees. I was honestly shocked and pleasantly surprised to receive the phone call that I was being inducted on a snowy day this winter. There are many people here, both here and not here, who I need to thank for me being up on the stage today. The first is my father, Jim Ficocello, over here. My dad made it emotionally and financially possible for me to attend Andover and then also to attend Harvard, which are obviously amazing institutions. But he taught me many important life lessons, the first of which is do not take yourself so seriously. I was a very serious child when I showed up at Andover. And that continued a little bit into my college years at Harvard. I took my lacrosse very seriously. And then my father reminded me one day that if I were to go and maybe pick up the Globe and look in the Help Wanted ads, a professional female lacrosse player probably wouldn't be in the Help Wanted ads. So I should probably get to my organic chemistry lab so I could get into med school or vet school, whatever I wanted to do. My sister Emily is also here with my brother-in-law Donald and their 3 children. She has always been my biggest cheerleader and biggest supporter. Even though we lived maybe 12 miles away from here, I really didn't know what Andover was when I was a little kid. And my sister, who did not attend this school, kind of had it in her that I should come here and apply. And so when I showed up after school one day, she was sitting on our couch with the envelope ripped open, my acceptance packet to Andover, sitting there. The acceptance letter from Brooks was smaller, and she thought probably bad news, and it didn't matter because she had determined I was going to go to Andover, so she decided not to open that one. You know, I think it's very hard maybe to convey to people who haven't had the pleasure of and the opportunity to attend Andover or even just step on this campus. I mean, I really think all you need to do is step on this campus to gain a sense of what an amazing place this is. And for me, it's a little difficult to convey to people who haven't been here what an amazing institution this is. For me, I was a skinny, little, devious, nerdy kid that showed up at Andover, and Andover and the people here, Coach K, the trainers, Jane Freed, who is my student counselor, they helped form an experience that, for me, literally changed the course of my existence. It put me on a path that has led me here, and I will certainly be forever grateful. Thank you.
My name is Paul Kalkstein. I happen to be Henry Higdon's lacrosse coach, although I don't really think I taught him anything. Henry was one of the most fabulous natural athletes of his time at Andover. Probably could have played any sport. Very successful because he combines his father's bulldog tenacity with his mother's grace and style. The citation. Before moving to Greenwich, Connecticut at the age of 9, all Henry Higdon III knew about hockey was what he had seen on TV watching the LA Kings. Good idea, I guess. That quickly changed, however, as he learned to skate on the local outdoor rink and continued to play for his 3 years on Andover's varsity hockey team. Named captain his senior year, Higdon received the Sumner Smith Hockey Award and, said his coach, set the standards by which future athletes will be measured. Off the ice, he helped create a hockey basic strength and conditioning program for the fall trimester. Higdon also captained the boys' varsity lacrosse team his senior year and was named an All-American. Excellent grades combined with athletic ability earned him a spot on the Boston Globe's all-scholastic hockey team and at commencement, the Yale Bowl Prize. His love of Boston prompted Higdon to choose Harvard over longtime rival Yale, despite the fact that his two sisters and his father, Henry G. Higdon II, a 2012 Andover Athletics Hall of Honor inductee, are Yale alumni. Higdon played all 4 years on the Harvard men's hockey team and went on to play for 1 year in the East Coast Hockey League with the Hampton Roads Admirals. Hockey also inspired another love. While in Toronto for a club hockey tournament, Higdon met his future wife, Stacy. The couple currently resides in London with their daughter, Blake. Higdon is a partner in Tourmaline Partners, LLC, an outsourced equity trading firm. Henry Higdon. I can't give you that one, we'll do it after.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much for that nice intro, Coach. It's really great to be back at Andover for my 20th reunion, and when Coach Kalkstein called me at the office, the phone rang, and it was literally like I had just spoken to him yesterday. But I was completely humbled and honored to have learned that I was selected for this award, and congrats to all my fellow inductees. First and foremost, I would like to thank all my teammates over the years, as well as my dorm mates and other classmates that made my 3 years here so special, as well as my teachers and coaches. I was very lucky to have had incredible coaches and some great teams during my time here. Coach Gurry and Coach Grogan in hockey, Coach Coxstein and Coach Modesti in lacrosse were all not only true students of the game, but also exceptional leaders and mentors. Some of the best coaches in sports are great coaches that know how to produce results, but do not necessarily connect with the players, while others might be players' coaches, but not necessarily capable behind the bench. So I realized how fortunate I was to have played for coaches here that could develop us as players and teams, as well as student athletes and young men of character. Although some might argue that just stepping foot inside the old Sumner Smith rink in February would develop character on its own. And they also taught us to have fun while doing it, so thanks, coaches, for all of that. I would also like to thank Mike Kuda and his staff for all the help while I was here at Andover. I was in the training room quite a bit of time my lower and upper year after we discovered a previously undetected fracture in my wrist that had occurred during a summer tryout for a Team USA select team. After undergoing a complex surgery, and thanks to Mike and his staff and some serious rehab, I was able to only miss a minimal amount of the season, which was a critical one for the college recruiting process my upper year. There was no way I could have been in better hands, so thank you, Mike, and your staff for all of that help. And finally, I would really like to thank my family for supporting me all along the way. My parents, my two sisters, Tyke and Missy, my wife Stacy, and daughter Blake, who are all here today. I just want to say thank you for everything. You could probably count on one hand the number of games that my parents missed over the years at Andover or Harvard, two of which I think were in Alaska. So, Mom and Dad, I love you. Thank you very much. And Dad, it's a tremendous honor to share this award with you. Thank you very much.
Hello. Ken Kerfel was a role model for me. I had never met him when he became a role model for me, but I'd heard so much about him. At Lawrenceville School, he was probably the best known and certainly most successful character in all of his endeavors, whether it was in the English classroom or the dormitory or on the athletic field. But what really I admired most about Ken Kerfel before I finally met him, which I tell you was a real joy, a greater gentleman I have never met, I met him at reunions, in fact, was his devotion to the most bodacious, wonderful, and never-ending delightful thing in the athletic world, single-wing football. Ken Kerfel began his football career while at Andover and was captain of the undefeated Big Blue in 1941. Upon graduation, he served the U.S. Navy in World War II and then played for Princeton, kicking the game-winning field goal that secured Princeton's 1946 victory over the University of Pennsylvania, then ranked third in the country. Kerfel was recruited by the Philadelphia Eagles and enjoyed a brief but exciting NFL career. He earned a PhD in English from the University of Pennsylvania and was freshman football coach there for 2 years. He then moved to the Lawrenceville School, where he became an icon, housemaster, master of English, and head football coach from 1956 to 1960 and 1967 through 1982, and then back again in 1990 to 1999. In the stadium that now bears his name, compiling an impressive 151, 89, and 8 record. Few masters in Lawrenceville's history generated as much respect and loyalty as the coach. In fact, great lore surrounds the volumes of letters Kerfel received over the years from former players and admirers, including former classmate President George H.W. Bush, class of '42 also. All praised the lessons he taught about attitude toward life as well as sport, discipline and the drive to achieve, the value of good habits, and the importance of a strong work ethic. The author of several books on the single-wing offense and considered a master of the form, Kerfel taught 18th century literature and coached football at Wabash College from 1961 to 1966. He was inducted into the Wabash College Athletics Hall of Fame in 1999. Representing Ken Kerfel today are his daughters Elizabeth and Catherine.
We thought we'd start by sharing my father's football jersey from 1941.
Yep, with a picture of him wearing it. So,
this is made of wool.
Yes.
Which I'm sure those of you in the crowd who play football would not particularly like to have against your skin.
No,
and if
especially
anybody,
in August.
Yes, if anybody can tell me what these buttons are for underneath afterwards, I'd really appreciate that. Don't know how it worked back then. 72-year-old jersey.
Yes,
anyway.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I know that my father would have really appreciated being here, and he is in many ways. So he loved his experience at Andover, and he wrote about it. He especially loved his experience with Steve Sirota, who was a mentor of him, and actually we learned from my brother, he actually played against him when he coached at Lawrenceville. So it was a powerful experience for him. Also, he was befriended by George Bush, and played baseball with him in the spring, many springs, and had a terrific experience here. And you know, it's interesting to talk about my father because we, I think, learned football in utero. So. And he was sort of an interesting man, and he, in so many ways, he was a Renaissance man, and he believed that you would always couple something like football and 18th century satirical literature, and that was the norm. And so that was who he was. And so he felt football was really the foundation and formation of what made good young men of character. And my sister is going to read a little bit about, he in his second book, he wrote about single wing football. And those of you who aren't football aficionados, it's sort of a tricky way to coach. So, so when you do it, and you do it well, it's actually very, very effective. When you do it poorly, it's not so well. So anyway, so Kath, if you want to.
Yeah, we thought we'd bring my father's voice in here. This is chapter 1, The Evolution of a Football Coach, and he talks about his experience at Andover. So he starts, like most American boys, I grew up loving football. I knew the name of every college football star. In the 30s, the radio announcers like Ted Hussing and Bill Stern were household names, and we listened to games with great interest. I played in my first high school game at age 15, but the greatest influence on me in my eventual choice to become a football coach was my coach at Phillips Academy, Andover, named Steve Sirota. Steve had played fullback from 1933 to 1935 on nationally ranked Fordham teams under Jim Crowley, one of the Notre Dame Four Horsemen. Steve was a dedicated student of the game. More importantly, he was a superb worker with boys. Steve's approach was always designed to build a boy's self-confidence. He would constantly encourage a player in his quiet way. Steve was a great teacher. He taught me sound techniques of the fundamentals: blocking, tackling, ball carrying, passing, pass receiving, punting, and place kicking. Steve had infinite patience, and patience was something he needed a lot of with a 16-year-old athlete like me. 60 years later, I can still hear his voice. In my senior year, when I was the captain of the Andover team, early in the preseason, I dropped a pass as a result of not being focused. In a rare display of harsh criticism, Steve climbed all over me. He said we had an excellent passer in Bobby First, who later set passing records at Yale University, and he wanted to throw the ball more. Playing the Notre Dame box formation, Bobby was often the tailback and I was often the wingback, so he would pass to me a lot. Steve's point in criticizing me vigorously was that we had the makings of an outstanding passing attack, and he wanted to make sure we capitalized on our potential. He knew I was a good receiver. He didn't want me to drop passes. In fact, I didn't drop another pass all season long. In that 1941 season, we ended up with an unbeaten record, and I've never forgotten the feeling of camaraderie and unity that prevailed on that Andover team. It was something I always hoped to replicate with my own teams when I became a coach. The hard work we put in as teammates and its subsequent reward was an experience I never forgot. Is it any wonder that as a coach, I firmly believed in the values we try to teach our young players?
And he said, and in his, in this particular chapter, he wrote, he quoted Lao Tse, and he said, "A leader is best when people barely know he exists. Not so good when people obey and acclaim him. Worse when they despise him. But a good leader who talks little when this work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will say, 'We did it ourselves.'" And that was my father to a T. So thank you very much. There we go. Thank you.
My name is Mike Kuda. It's my pleasure to introduce David Smoyer. The Smoyer family name marks the varsity soccer field at Andover. The family's connection with Andover soccer started with David Smoyer's time in goal in the 1950s. He earned 2 letters in soccer, and in the fall of 1958, shut out 4 opponents. Smoyer's athletics career continued at Dartmouth, where he was a standout athlete for the Big Green and was selected as All-American soccer goalie in 1962. He earned 9 varsity letters at Dartmouth in soccer, squash, and tennis, and was captain of the squash team. Early in his career, he was assistant to the commissioner of the North American Soccer League, the first professional soccer league in the United States. Later, he was the associate director of athletics at Yale and the director of athletics at Swarthmore, as well as being Swarthmore's first women's soccer team. Before and after Swarthmore, Smoyer served 2 stints at the Roxbury Latin School in Boston, where he was the director of development and a coach of several teams, including varsity soccer. David's father, Stanley, donated the Smoyer family field in honor of his son David and in memory of his son Bill, class of '63, who himself earned 3 soccer letters and was inducted into the Andover Athletics Hall of Honor in 2011. David said at the time of the field's dedication, "It meant a lot to my mother and father that Billy and I were at Andover. My dad is delighted to support PA in the soccer program. I'm really pleased about the gift. I know he is too." David Smoyer.
Thank you. I don't think it will come as a surprise to those of us who have been at Andover that life at Andover has its ups and downs. It can be a hard school, but it has more ups than downs, and certainly one of my greatest ups was soccer at Andover. I can remember in the fall of 1956, I was a lower prep, coming here and going out to the varsity soccer field before practice started and watching the team, which was back for a few days of early practicing. And I said to myself, it would be just great if I could be on this team. And it worked out that I was. Being a goaltender and not the starting, Wally Phillips, one of Andover's greatest athletes, was the starting goaltender. I had a nice fall just sitting on the sideline, practicing, watching Wally play, and enjoying myself until the Exeter game when Wally got kicked and he was down. And Frank DiClemente, the soccer coach, an institution at Andover, Deke looked at me and said, "Smoyer, warm up." I had no idea. I thought Steve Ripley was a second string. I had no idea. So I started warming up, and I was terrified, but Wally was okay. So I didn't have to play. Upper year, suddenly Deke, who'd paid no attention to me the entire fall, was harassing me daily. shouting at me, yelling at me, because as those of you who played under Deke, you know he could have a sharp tongue and had a way of getting under your skin. He was under my skin. And I remember after one practice saying to Louis Van Amerongen, who was the captain of the team, "Louis, why is he being so mean to me?" And Louis looked at me with this look of sort of, "David." He said, "David, you expletive. You're going to be playing." I said, "I am?" He said, "You're going to be playing, and he wants you to get to be the best you can." That was interesting. So I had a great career here at Andover in the soccer goal, a lot of great teammates, a lot of great classmates, many of whom are here today. And I thank you very much for this great honor, which I truly appreciate.
It's my pleasure to now introduce Diane Hurley, class of 1980. This is Diane's second trip here on to campus in the last 3 weeks, right before Andover Exeter weekend. A weekend, it was a very good one for Andover, by the way. Diane was invited to speak at our annual senior athletics dinner. And it was appropriate that we invited her this year, a year of celebration of 40 years of coeducation at Andover. She did an absolutely terrific job describing to the girls and boys in the audience what it was like to be a female athlete post-merger. So thank you for that as well, Dan. Diane Hurley arrived on campus in the wake of Title IX with great enthusiasm for all manner of sports and was thrilled with Andover's broad array of offerings. She had participated in the first girls' ice hockey team in her hometown of Brookline, Mass. So at Andover, she became part of an inaugural girls' team in 1976. By her lower year, the team achieved varsity status, and by her senior year in 1980, it had a full schedule, and the team was undefeated. Got it done. Hurley earned varsity letters at Andover in hockey, soccer, track and field, and lacrosse. She also won the Press Club Award and the Sumner Smith Hockey Award in her senior year. Hurley continued to play hockey the next 4 years at Harvard, where she was a co-captain her senior year. During her tenure at Harvard, she broke 5 scoring records. One of her records would stand for 20 years. And she helped lead the Crimson to its first 2 upset beanpot victories in 1982 and 1983. After Hurley graduated from Harvard and moved to New York, she played hockey regularly in Central Park and at the original Sky Rink on West 33rd Street and at the Ingalls Rink at Yale, where she earned an MBA degree. Hurley resides in New York with her husband and 3 children. She remains very active in athletics through coaching and volunteering in community hockey and soccer, and has had a career in management and finance. Welcome, Diane Hurley.
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here, really great. And I'd like to also thank the Alumni Athletic Committee and everyone at Andover for this honor. And to the fellow honorees, it's great to meet you all and learn your amazing stories. My story is one of enthusiasm and opportunity. When I arrived at Andover as a young junior, I was enthusiastic to try anything, and I found an environment to match my enthusiasm. A school where I had equal access, not just to education, but to everything, including athletics. Access is the key. There are only 2 women slightly older than me in the Hall of Honor, both brilliant athletes, but there were many, many gifted women ahead of us. Women of earlier generations whose athletic talents were hidden from view, hidden in bloomers and long dresses. I've had many conversations with older women who lamented having to stand on the sidelines to watch their brothers play. When I was 13 in the summer of 1976, I received a package of documents from Andover outlining what I might expect as a new, about to enter ninth grade. One document that I can still remember described the athletic requirement at Andover that I would be required to meet, and a wide variety of offerings to meet this athletic requirement. I panicked when I realized that I could only select one sport for each trimester. I just didn't know how I would do that. In the fall alone, how to decide among cross country, field hockey, and soccer, not to mention dance and search and rescue. I still regret that I never climbed the bell tower. One of the only sports not offered in my summer package was girls ice hockey. That was a mild disappointment since the prior years I had already played on the first and only girls team in Brookline, which was under 18 and all the way down. And so in the fall of 1976, a few of us knocked on the door of young coach Chris Gurry to ask about the possibility of a girls team. I didn't even think it would be a possibility, but we tried anyhow. And Coach Gurry didn't shoo us away. Instead, he listened. Himself, a recent Andover and Harvard graduate, Gurry recognized our enthusiasm and agreed to help. We were empowered, and we never looked back. Within a few weeks, we had a club team in place. A few weeks, not years, just a few weeks later. We received varsity status the following year when I was a lower. And by my senior year, we were undefeated, and our entire first line went on to play Division I college hockey. I arrived at Andover in the wake of Title IX, that landmark law passed in 1972, only a little more than 40 years ago, that insisted that women should have equal access to all educational opportunities, including sports. Before that, it was not considered. So I stand before you in deepest gratitude to the women before me who did not have our opportunities, but who paved the way. And most of all, I stand in gratitude to Andover and to my good fortune for having spent my high school years here. Andover is truly unsurpassed in academic and athletic excellence, and it affords young men and women the deepest, the widest, and the most profound set of opportunities. And I'm eternally thankful to have played a small part in its history. Thank you very much.
I'm Dick Phelps. I have the great honor and privilege of introducing my very dear friend, Alan Schwartz. And I'll read about all of his accomplishments shortly, but I also want to mention that all of these things would not have been accomplished unless he had the support and loving care of his wife over these many years. Ronnie, please stand up and be recognized for your support of Alan. Also like to take a moment to thank Mike Moonves and also Eleanor Tidings for all they have done to make this program so wonderful and keep improving it each year. Thank you very much for what you have done for this program. Alan Schwartz combined his passion for tennis with his career. In 1969, he founded Tennis Corporation of America, building the Midtown Tennis Club, the world's largest indoor tennis club. Schwartz has served as chair, president, and CEO of the United States Tennis Association. I happened to be involved with the Tennis Association at that point in time, and without question, Alan was the most outstanding president the UST has had in the past and in the future. Alan, you've done a great job for the USTA. Continuing, he served on Tennis Channel, International Tennis Federation, and the Davis Cup Committee. In 2003, Tennis Industry named him Man of the Year. In 2009, Schwartz was honored by the Tennis Industry Hall of Fame, and in 2013, he was inducted into the Intercollegiate Tennis Association Hall of Honor. At Andover, Schwartz's athletic successes were numerous. He earned 6 varsity letters, captained the 1948 tennis team, swam with the 1948 swim team. 2008 Andover Athletics Hall of Fame inductees included, obviously, Alan. and was awarded the Yale Bowl at commencement. He swam and played tennis at the varsity level at Yale and captained the tennis team his senior year. As an amateur player, Schwartz won 8 national championships and 7 Illinois state championships. At the Maccabee Games in Israel, he won 2 gold medals and a silver. A notable accomplishment in Schwartz's long-standing relationship with Andover is his implementation of the successful flyback program, which brings talented minority students who have been admitted but have not yet committed with their families to visit the academy, with his paying the total bill. He and his wife, Ronnie, live near Chicago. They have 4 children, including Stephen, 77, 8 grandchildren, including Alex, 07. Alan, we love you.
It's not often someone gets introduced by their personal hero, which Dick Phelps happens to be. When I came to Andover in 1944, I was the youngest guy in school, 12 years old, and naturally with all the other young kids, I was put down in Will Hall, and junior house, I understand, no longer exists. At Will Hall and Junior House, there was a scholarship lad who was waiting table and was captain of the baseball team. That was Dick Phelps. Dick Phelps had no reason to do other than take care of what his chores were for his scholarship and leave, but he spent more time coaching, encouraging, talking to, and mentoring the youngest of the guys there, and certainly boosted up our spirits when it came to the annual snowball fight with the bigger juniors who came down from Rockwell Hall. It did take Dick a while to understand that baseball wasn't the right sport to be in, and Dick switched over to tennis. He has won numerous gold medals, which are national championships, with his father and daughter. Today, at the ripe old age of 86, Dick is ranked number 3 in the country in the seniors father in doubles, and he still has a hell of a pair of legs to run with, which gets to be the real test at this age. This September will mark 70 years that I have been a part, or other way around, Dick has been a part of my life. So that's a very special privilege. I look back at Andover and think to myself, that's really the 4 years of education that shaped my life, my interests, my academic interests. It was where I learned to think in broader perspective, to think horizontally when I took a history exam, to appreciate when I came home weekends just what a quality student body there was that I was privileged to be a part of at Andover, and certain faculty members who left indelible impressions. The one who left the most indelible impression was somebody by the name of Fritz Alice. Fritz Alice was in the history department. He had been there some decade or more before I got there, and he was versatile enough to have gone from medieval history, teaching it in his lower year, to English history in his upper year, to American history, and as feared as the famous Doc Darling was in American history. And I had Alice for all 3 years. And he left tremendous memories, and and he actually led me to certain connections that were very serendipitous. My son, Stephen, class of 77, had Alice in his last couple of years teaching, and so we shared moments about that. And then in a very strange setting in Houston, Texas, in 2003, the United States was playing against Spain in the Davis Cup, and the U.S., as the host city, had its choice of surfaces. So this is going to tie in with Alice, interestingly enough. And we figured, with Pete Sampras as the #1 player, the obvious thing to do was to play on grass. We wanted to play in Houston because we knew what great fan President Bush 41 was. And so we built a grass court in Houston at the club down there. And at that time, as president of the USDA, I was seated next to President Bush. And we got talking. And lo and behold, I knew he'd gone to Andover. We chatted about that. I said, "You didn't happen to know Fritz Alice, did you?" And indeed he did, and remembered it fondly. And so that was a connection that we sat there. As it turned out, Sampras walked away with they played 3 out of 5 in Davis Cup. He walked away with the first 2 sets playing Carlos Moya, who was a famous clay court player who actually had gotten to #1 in the world a few years before. But that was the longest time I've ever been with anyone watching a tennis match, because Moya came back and won the next 3 sets. So I was sitting next to President Bush for close to 5 hours. At the end of that time, he invited the team and my wife and I to come to his house, which was very close by, and have cocktails and talk. And so we did, and I'm going to share a very interesting tennis story direct from the president. First of all, he said, tennis runs in our family very deep. He said, my mother was the #2 gal in the country in the 18 and unders, which I didn't realize, that they go by age brackets there. He said she was without doubt the most competitive person I have ever met in my life. And we will give us an example. He said, all right, I'll give you an example. I was vice president, and we were fixed up in a charity event, and I forget which charity it was, but he said my partner was Ivan Lendl, who at that time had won numerous Grand Slams. And when the match was over, he went back to the vice president's residence, and his mother, who was then alive, called him up, and she said, George, how did you do? He said, well, Mom, we lost. And her response was, I never did think much of Lendl as a doubles player. He took some of that same competitiveness, I must tell you, very much to heart, because 2 of his 3 sons were excellent tennis players. One of them captained the Andover tennis team here, Jeb. And the other one you don't hear about very much about, Marvin. And with the genes he got from his mother, he set up a match there between Marvin and Jeb on one side, and Chris Everett and Pam Shriver on the other side, and the 2 boys won in 3 sets. So it gives you an idea that they were pretty darn good also. Tennis continues to be a very popular sport here at Andover, and these last 2 teams, the last 2 years, have won the New England Championships, which is no small feat. That's limited to private schools. But then they became one of the 16 teams in the United States invited to participate in the national high school tennis team championships, which included both private and public schools. Just getting there is no small accomplishment, and I had a chance to tour the facilities today. Unfortunately, we don't have very much at the present time in indoor tennis. They've laid a very slick surface which plays faster than grass inside the cage. But I remember the times at the cage when we practiced indoors there. It was a dirt floor, and we practiced not too far from the shot putters who were on the track team. And I want to tell you, it was a fearsome thing to be practicing and have some shot put land about 20, 25 feet away with a giant thud in the dirt. Headmaster, I know you have lots of athletic things planned. This may not be as high as I might like it to be on the list, but I think there are some people, father of one of the existing players and some others who have expressed a serious interest in it. They sent me the plans. There's a lot of upgrading needed, but they were a good start. Only 3 courts, which saddened me a little bit. Although I was out there today and there seemed to be a little dirt that could be moved, that a 4th one would do it, and most indoor tennis works in groups of 4, as you know. But I personally promised to get involved in that effort, and I'd like to see it become a reality. I was going to mention how many of my family had gone to Andover, but I was put to shame by the front row here. But I do claim a son, a daughter, a son-in-law, a brother-in-law, and a grandson. So not what you guys have, but there's a lot of Andover tradition. It's just changed my life and broadened all the horizons that I had, and I am still an avid reader of historical biographies, and I thank Fritz Alice for that. I feel very honored to be here, and I want to congratulate my fellow honorees. Dick said it was a big honor to be involved here for 2 sports and get inducted for 2 sports, but I got to tell you, there are an awful lot of kids here, guys here, that are good candidates for 3 sports. It's a pleasure to be amongst them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alan Schwartz, thank you for those wonderful remarks, and we should maybe leave those as the ending remarks because they were so good. I'll definitely get back to you on that indoor tennis facility. I would love to have it, I can tell you, and we'd love your help in getting there. Good afternoon, I'm John Palfrey. I'm the head of school, and I'm all that stands between you and dinner or whatever's afterwards. And I'm looking at the wonderful kids who have stuck with us during this ceremony. It's great to see people of all generations, including the young children here, and I promise I won't be long, you guys. You're almost done. But I did want to take a moment just to talk about the importance of athletics at Andover today and into the future, and to say thank you and congratulations to each of the honorees today. It's a remarkable group, as we've heard from these stories, and you stand for the best of Andover, and we're so honored to have you in our presence. Thanks to each of you for all you've done. In a funny way, I came to know Andover through athletics. I went to a different school, Exeter, about 40 miles up to the north, and I experienced Andover truly as an opponent of Andover athletics. And I can say that though I played 3 varsity sports, I don't think I won a single match of any sort against Andover during my time. But I did come away, though deep rivals, of course, with Andover, with just such a real sense of appreciation of what it meant to be an Andover athlete, classy and strong competitors, and all of those things that I think people have talked about today clearly have been part of the Andover athletic teaching program effectively, is how I see it. All of those things we talked about, the depth of character, the development of character, the notion of teamwork, the notion of values, the notion of hard work. I'm struck by the fact that right now in academic literature, you may know that the hot theme is teaching grit and persistence. People saying that if you have grit, you're going to be most likely to succeed. That's the key element. For anyone who has played on an Andover sports team or sports team of any sort, where else have you learned more grit than on an athletic field and with a great coach like Mr. Kalkstein or others, Coach K in this room? I think it is one of the best ways to teach character, and it's a thing that we should be enormously proud of and to build on for the future. In addition, obviously, to teaching these key characteristics, I think it's important, and I note this especially with Coach Kuda, who's turning over the reins after 7 great years as athletic director, that this year was, though I think we mark leadership in athletics in many ways as a year in which we had an enormous number of very strong winning teams. Alan Schwartz mentioned the boys and girls teams that won New England's in tennis. In squash, which was my main sport, both teams won in their brackets in the national tournament. We had sweeps in water polo from boys and girls in New England, as well as the swimming teams also did win their relevant championship. The crew team won New England's out at Quinsigamon last weekend, and if you had not followed it, we actually did beat Exeter at football and then went on to win the New England championship. And I have to say, even though winning isn't everything, winning feels really good when it comes to athletics, and certainly to have a winning football season. And so congratulations to Coach Kuda and all the teams this year for a great season. I want to end in part by invoking what Diane Hurley said about enthusiasm and opportunity. I think that enthusiasm is certainly what marks my own involvement in sports, not particular skill, but great enthusiasm for it. But the opportunity before us is really, I think, to figure out how, as we build the next version of Andover, we can build on our athletic program. And in our strategic plan, we're saying a lot about looking at the athletic program and how we deepen it and strengthen it going forward and revitalize it. But also, we will have to come back to our facilities. And Alan Schwartz, this was not quite a setup, but it is the case that our athletic facilities are certainly subpar compared to our competing schools on many fronts. It is hard to play tennis in the winter if you don't have indoor courts. But across the board, our pool isn't exactly the right length. We don't actually have the right number of facilities for most of our other sports. And it turns out that our wrestling room shares with the dance team its space. So there are a bunch of suboptimal elements of Andover's athletic facilities. And so during my time as head of school, I very much would love to partner with all of you. It's going to be time-consuming, it's going to be expensive, but I think this is a moment for the rejuvenation of our athletics program and rebuilding of a lot of our facilities, and I really look forward very much to doing that, but in the spirit of the kind of program that all of you have stood for and have created. And to quote Mrs. Eastham, let us end by saying, let us run the race before us in exactly the spirit that all of these great athletes have run the races that they've run to date. Thank you all so much, and congratulations.